cake? Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. I am flying solo again today. I don't know where my co-host is. I imagine he's probably laid up in bed, not feeling too well. All right, you guys have joined us today. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Pony Boy, you're already in the chats. Good morning. Carlite's supposed to get another Arctic front in the future soon. Those boys are from Texas. And when an Arctic front runs through Texas, you know there's trouble because they don't know how to deal with cold weather. And that's just the truth of the matter. You know, it was interesting when I was up in Wisconsin at one point in the car, it was negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which, by the way, for those of you from Texas, is very cold even for Wisconsin. So anyways, interesting, you guys. You guys will probably get a nice low down at like 25, which is nothing for most of America. All right, guys, we've got enough of you in here. Let's go ahead and do the simultaneous sip. I know why you're here. You're here for the simultaneous sip. All you need is a cup, a mug, or a glass, or a tankard, a chalice, or a stein, a canteen, jug, or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like beverage, some like tea, some like water. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, and the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. All right, it was good to get that out of the way. I can't believe we missed that for a couple days. All right, let's see. Colonel Impaw, Karen, good morning. Agree. Even though Florida passed legislation against geoengineering, they are spraying here more than ever. Wake up to chemical smell in the morning air. Ooh, that's no fun. You know what? When I was flying over the country, Seattle to Wisconsin, at one point, you're up there and there was a chemtrail that we flew over. And it was like this long, it's exactly what you'd expect. It was like an exhaust trail that was just kind of hanging out in the air, but it was clearly exhaust or like a very just this long string. I couldn't see the plane on the other end. I couldn't see where it began or it end, but it was just kind of hanging there and we flew over it. Anyways, I thought that was very odd. It was clearly something. Carlitos, good morning, Pony Boy. We are in Houston, you in Dallas. And he says West Texas, San Angelino. And very cool. It's cool that you guys are all getting to know each other in the chats. That's the whole point, right? Build some community, have some fun. All right. So yesterday was a really big day, election-wise, and holy smokes, man, the overreaction to getting a hold of the physical ballots. You'd think guys had something to hide or cover up. But aside from that, we did have another big piece of news that broke just this morning, literally minutes before I walked in the studio. Breaking, and this is coming from the Patriot Oasis, but it's been posted a million other places. Breaking in a press release, Don Lemon's attorney, Abe Lau. Who's Abe Lau? Lau. It's not Lau, it's Lowell. Who's Abe Lowell? Abe Lowell was the attorney for Hunter Biden. Abe Lowell was the attorney for Lisa Cook, the Fed governor. Abe Lowell was the attorney for the fired CDC deputy director or whatever it was. Abe Lowell is the guy that all these scorned Democrats, these people that are essentially, I don't know how to describe them other than sycophants, end up having as their attorney. So he's kind of a dirtbag attorney. Anyways, Don Lemon got arrested and they put out a statement. Basically, Abe Lowell's like, oh, this is because of First Amendment protesting. Right. Yeah, remember the names exactly. When you see Abe Lau or Lowell on anything, you know that it's a TDS patient that is seeking legal representation. And they're going to try to use their TDS as the justification for whatever they're doing. So pretty interesting there. I'm not even shocked in the slightest that Don Lemon has him as an attorney, but they did pass down an actual federal indictment. So it's not just a complaint that's then taken and filed, and then he's brought before a judge, and then there's a probable cause hearing. Nope. There's no need for a probable cause hearing or an evidentiary hearing. This is pretty straightforward. They went to a grand jury, which consists of 12 to 16 people. They voted on the evidence that they saw. It's a one-sided deal. Only the prosecution gets to present evidence. And the jury returned a true bill, essentially saying they saw enough evidence that they think that Don Lemon should be charged with a public crime. And he was. And so indictments are sticky. Judges don't just dismiss them. They don't get a chance to dismiss them. Judges don't get to see the evidence until you're getting towards the jury trial. And they can exclude evidence and things like that, but they typically don't just dismiss indictments. So that is a big, big, big deal. So watch Don Lemon make the media tour, watch them. They have, in my opinion, they have no other choice but to try to to plead their case in the public. That's what they're going to have to do. They have no other choice but to do that. All right. Ari Hoffman reports this, and this happened yesterday in a Seattle courtroom. Seattle has to pay $30 million for allowing BLM and Antifa to take over 6 blocks of the city in 2020. This was known as the Chaz Chop Zone. Chaz, it was the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and then it became the Capitol Hill something, whatever. They changed the name because the city was like, hey, you can't be autonomous. You have to be occupied place, or I don't know. They came up with some other name, but it was Chaz and or Chop, depending on what week we were running headlines. So the jury returned the indictment and awarded the family $30 million.
The state of, in the Superior Court of Seattle, in the Superior Court of the state of Washington in and Working County, the state of Antonio Mays Jr., by and through the personal representative of the state of Antonio Mays Jr. and Antonio Mays.
Anyways, it's very quiet there, but the family was awarded $30 million and found the city of Seattle essentially negligent by not providing city services. And this was the discussion we had all the way back in 2020, was just that. The people that live in that community were held hostage by the Chaz Chop occupiers, right? They would force them to open their windows and their doors and run extension cords out into the park. They would force them to basically provide food and things out of their refrigerator, fresh water. Those individuals inside of that Chaz Chop zone were unable to get any kind of first responder services. The police wouldn't respond. 9/11 wouldn't respond. And so then the question became, what are we paying taxes for? Should we just redirect them over to the Chaz warlord? This was a real discussion happening in Seattle over this Chaz Chop Zone. It was a really big deal. And they found him guilty of negligence, $30 million. Now, this pales in comparison to, say, the settlement that the Babbitt family got for Ashley Babbitt's wrongful death. Is that not the same situation? Was that not negligence on the part of Muriel Bowser and Ashley Babbitt and the Capitol Hill police to not pass on intelligence showing that it was going to be wild that day at the Capitol? Yeah, I just think, life's not always fair, but at least here there's something. The city is taking the blame for that, and rightly so. It was not the summer of love. Another thing that happened yesterday that there are these people, these certain particular politicians that are nothing but designated liars. These are people that have no allegiance to the truth. They have no North Star. They have no compass whatsoever. And this is one of those individuals. His name is Senator Dick Durbin. You guys have all heard about him. And yesterday he went onto the Senate floor.
This weekend, federal agent.
Yesterday he went onto the Senate floor to talk about the shooting in Minneapolis by the Border Patrol agents or ICE agents. I don't even know which one. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right, this gentleman Pretty that was shot. So Dick Durbin is on the Senate floor. Let's go ahead and watch this video. It's pretty significant what he did this day. This is another one of those retarded things that's going to go down in history, just proving how feckless and retarded our elected leaders can sometimes be.
This weekend, federal agents gunned down yet another American in Minneapolis, Alex Pretty, a 37-year-old ICU nurse at a VA hospital in Minneapolis. I'm going to show a photo of that scene, which is graphic, but I'm afraid is necessary to appreciate the horror of the moment. This photo shows the last second before the ICE agent killed Alex Pretty on the streets of Minneapolis.
What's really incredible here is the ICE agent, has this loaded gun right at the back of Pretty's head. This is a terrifying shot, except there's one thing missing. This apparently Alex Pretty had already decapitated this officer. Where's his head? Where is the brain? Where are the eyes, the nose, the scalp, the hair of this officer right here? This is an AI generated photo that made its way around X. The officer is missing his head. This officer right here is holding his head down over where this officer's neck should be. This is the United States Senate. This man has been elected. This man is a retard. This man cannot see. I wonder if standing here in the well of the Senate, the most sacred of places that the QAnon shaman violated, as he posts this picture, this AI generated picture, this graphic picture that Americans just must see. Yeah, it's graphic. A guy's missing his head. If Preddy chopped off this Border Patrol agent's head, then I think this might have been a justified shooting, Dick Durbin.
In his right hand is his camera, left hand holding the ground. No gun, obvious. No effort to resist, obvious. This was a moment when this man lost his life.
Is it, Dick Durbin? Is this the moment that this man lost his life?
He was characterized afterwards as an assassin, a domestic terrorist. The photo tells the story.
Does it? Does the photo tell the story? That's credit of Breitbart for posting that. Do you not get it yet? Do the American people not see it? These people are fools, and they will bold-faced lie to you. Now, mistakes can be made. Dick Durbin can be like, oh, my staff, printed that poster. Clearly, they printed the poster. Did they not look at it? Maybe you should fire your staff. Dick Durbin, that is the most embarrassing thing I have ever seen. And I just want you to know this is not new. Jacob Chansley, I mentioned the QAnon shaman just to bring this all together. When Jacob Chansley was indicted by the United States government, in his criminal complaint, they had a picture of him inside of the United States Capitol. And superimposed on one of the pieces of artwork in the background, presumably, a portrait of one of our founding fathers, was a portrait of a porn star with his pants off, showing himself in all of his glory. This was included in the criminal complaint put before a grand jury, judges in the world, as evidence that Jacob Chansley was inside the United States Capitol. A photoshopped picture showing a porn star as artwork in the Capitol building. So, yeah, if you think the government dots their I's, cross their T's, never falls victim to fake news, you're wrong. Which is partly why it is so insidious, the fact that the fourth branch of government, the free press, allegedly, right, buys into these lies and pushes these narratives. You go all the way back to the start of all the drama with Donald Trump, right when he came down the escalator, the Russiagate narrative. That information was laundered into the press, false information laundered into the press and spoon-fed back to the American people as slop. Just like these AI images, just like the government, the executive branch of government is willing to feed, and clearly the legislative branch of government is willing to feed the American people slop, untruths, provable untruths, on their face, stupid prima facie fictions, like AI-generated images being showed in the well of a ballot or submitted as courtroom evidence or published as fact that Trump is a Russian agent because of some laundered information into the Department of Justice and into the news ecosystem. It is disgusting what happens. So now we're going to shift focus back to the election stuff, this FBI raid in Fulton County. And we're going to take the time to pick apart some of the different perspectives that the left and the right have on this. Because as I've emphasized many times, facts do not win wars, narratives do. It's what the people believe that matters. And sometimes people believe things that are not true. And that false belief and that false illusion has so much power and so much force, it causes people to act differently. For example, not supporting a president or not supporting good policy because your empathy has been tickled by some false news or something like that. So here's an example dealing with the 2020 election where people pick sides and then everything becomes confirmation bias. Either it's confirmed that you saw cheating or it's confirmed that there is no cheating and Donald Trump is just an idiot. So let's listen to a couple of these news reports over the 2020 election ballots being seized by the Federal Bureau of Investigations. And listen to the little subtle keywords, the false claims, the Donald Trump is still denying the results of the election, and all these different things, these buzzwords that the mainstream media and those that don't want to at least get to the facts are trying to spin out there for you. So the first one I got for you is coming from Reuters News. Now, Reuters, obviously a big mainstream news network, and Reuters, okay, has a huge amount of influence. They're considered very credible. Listen to how they just cover in their little news clip the raid on the Fulton County ballots.
The FBI searched an election office in Georgia's Fulton County outside Atlanta on Wednesday, pursuing U.S. President Donald Trump's false claims that his 2020 election defeat was because of widespread voting fraud. An FBI statement said its agents executed a warrant at the Fulton County Election Hub and Operations Center. A law enforcement official who spoke to Reuters said the agents were looking to seize computers and ballots they believed were held at the facility as part of an investigation into possible election interference. Trump unsuccessfully sought to overturn the 2020 election result in Georgia, pressuring the state's top election official to, quote, find votes that would allow him to claim victory. Several reviews and a hand audit of ballots confirmed that Democrat Joe Biden narrowly won the state. Wednesday's search came a week after Trump again made his debunked claim that voting in 2020 was a rigged election, and that, quote, people will soon be prosecuted for what they did. The director of the FBI, Kash Patel, was appointed to his post by Trump last year.
So you can see there the little subtle keywords, the false claims of election denial, right? That's Reuters. That's just, they've got the script and they're going to run with the script. So this is all Trump just trying to adjudicate the past, okay? So now let's jump over to Europe. On LBC, Jen, you probably know these guys. On LBC, they had a discussion about this. Again, it's important the way they present this because there's something called the law of first impression, right? You can't take back a first impression. Excuse me, it's not the law of first impression. It's called the law of primacy. Your first impression of something is the impression that sticks. Because in order to change your opinion, you have to be presented with more compelling evidence than what created that first impression. It's called the law of primacy. Your first exposure to a thing is typically going to be your primary operating system or opinion on a certain matter. So now, people who have TDS, they're watching this, and this is their reaction to what they saw in the raid yesterday.
Donald Trump conclusively lost the state of Georgia in 2020.
And he's never accepted that.
He's never accepted that. But in the last 24 hours, he has sent in the FBI to raid these election offices. And we just spoke to Mo Ivory, who is the Fulton County Commissioner. And she described to us in absolute graphic detail how FBI agents came with a warrant. They got the wrong warrant, first of all. She sent them away. They came back with another warrant. And they took away the boxes that have been stored in the cellars, in the archives of all these American votes. They've all been taken away. They've all been taken away on these great big pallets. They've literally been physically removed. So it's not a question of like, oh, can we just see the data, or can we see that, downloaded sort of numbers, or can we check the graph or whatever? They've literally removed the votes themselves on a great big pallet. And I asked the Commissioner Ivory, do you have confidence that these won't now be tampered with? And she said none at all. Her concern is, this is not really about 2020. This is not about the past. This is about the future. And if Donald Trump can sow the seeds of a sense of confusion or a sense of chaos or a sense that the election officials don't know what they're doing.
Your democratic process cannot be trusted. Let's not bother having one.
Where have we seen that? In Russia, right? This is an old Putin tactic. You don't actually have to tell people things. You just have to make them feel that the systems aren't working or they're somehow not not right. This is not about party politics. This is about having somebody at the very top of government who has no real concern for the democratic rights of the voter in America.
Is that the case? This is someone at the top of the party who has no concern for the rights of the voter in America. Is that how you perceive it? It probably isn't if you're listening to the show, right? Because you're probably conservative if you're willing to sit and listen to me rant and ramble all day long. But this is how they feel about it. They feel like Trump is somehow stealing votes. That why would he need the physical evidence? Because now we can't continue to prove recount after recount of these fake ballots, right? That Biden won the election and Ossoff won the runoff and all these different people that Georgia has given us the last 4 years. This is really scary because remember, it's not facts, it's narratives. These people don't want to see the ballots. They want to have agreement. They want to have uniformity. This is the collectivist desire. We're all in it together. Are we? Are we all in it together? Right? When someone asks for your last meal for the group to sacrifice yourself, you can just turn it around and say, how about I have your last meal and give it to me? And then that's where the individualism comes in. It's when everybody's fighting over the last resources that it breaks down. The more people participate in communism, there's like a growth curve. These people just want everybody to agree. They hate the freedom of speech. They hate facts because they spin narratives. That's all they do. They spin narratives. Right? And their narratives, which on the right, we have narratives too, but typically they're aligned with reality because it's easier to do that. It's harder to live a lie than it is to live by truth, right? These guys have so many plates spinning and so many lies they have to keep up. And the only way that you can enforce a lie is with force. And so you end up putting people like me in jail. You end up putting different dissidents in jail. We see this around other countries. This is what the Biden regime did. They wouldn't validate people's concerns. Rather, they persecuted and prosecuted them for expressing the concerns. Here's Chris Chileza, a liberal pundit, I guess you could say. He's probably in the same category of me on the right. But again, narratives over facts, narratives over facts. This is what the other side of the aisle, the other side of the political spectrum this morning is waking up, and this is what they're sharing with each other. So just like we're over here clapping the ballots being taken, they're over there fomenting something completely different.
And yet, here we are, as I said, almost 2,000 days after the 2020 election. After Donald Trump has already won another presidential election, he cannot give up the idea that he actually won in 2020, which, by the way, even if he did win Georgia, which he didn't, he still would have lost by a significant margin. And that's, I don't really know what to say. It's sad in a way that a guy who's in his second term as president an adult, a 79-year-old man can't accept the fact that he lost an election and has to use the powers of the federal government to try to continue to litigate this. But it's also a little scary. And I think you should pay attention to it because there's no there. There's no evidence. There's no reasonable doubt that this election was decided in the proper way with the proper ballot count. And yet, here we are, as I said, almost 2,000 days after the 2020 election. After Donald Trump has already won another presidential election, he cannot give up the idea that he actually won in 2020, which, by the way, even if he did win Georgia, which he didn't, he still would have lost by a significant margin. And that's, I don't really know what to say. It's sad in a way that a guy who's in his second term as president an adult, a 79-year-old man can't accept the fact that he lost.
Did I play that twice? I feel like I played that twice. I turned my head for a second and it looped. But you can see they're pinning it on this, Donald Trump's just a sore loser and he can't just take the win that he got by winning the 2024 election. He's got to go punish his enemies. Well, he might want some retribution and vindication. It's probably more vindication than anything, right? That his suspicions weren't wrong all along. This is the chairman of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, and he has defended the authenticity of the 2020 election for years now. Okay, this is one of the guys, whether he's in on the steal or not, he is absolutely involved in the cover-up. Okay, whether he's in on the steal or not, he's in on the cover-up.